Greetings, everyone. I'm John Sellers. I'm one of the deacons at the Warrenton Bible Fellowship, and welcome to another episode of the Cleric and the Counselor. This is something we do in a frequent basis to get important information to you. And so today is not unlike that, where we are going to introduce to you Matt Biernat. He is a candidate for the pastoral position at WBF. And so we have a few questions for him. And so, without further ado, let me introduce to you who's here, Pastor John Kavakis, pastor of the Warrenton Bible Fellowship, and Matt Biernat, our candidate. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to start, Matt, with just a question about you. Give us some information about you and your family.
Yeah. So again, my name is Matt. I'm married to my wife, Kayla, who we got married about 7.5 years ago. We were both 19 years old. We were high school sweethearts, met when we were 15. And that's kind of where everything began with our relationship. We've got three kids outside the womb. Colson's 5. Benny is 3. Beckham is 1. And there's another one on the way. Not sure yet if it's a boy or girl. We'll find out in a few weeks. And so our life is busy. It's a lot of fun though. And so that's kind of the home life where we come from. And actually grew up not far from where you guys are at, about 2 hours south west of Warrenton. And grew up in church since I was born. Basically, probably 3 weeks old, I was in the nursery or whatnot. And so my life has just been full of church ever since the very beginning. Not that my dad's a pastor or anything like that, but they've been very faithful in church, which kind of, we grew up into that. And that became established rhythms and grooves of our life. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we've come from. We were in Virginia for many years, moved away my senior year, actually, which is kind of as a hinge point where we moved away. My family, my dad got a new job. I was still in high school, senior year just had started, and moved us to Mississippi, about 800 miles south of Virginia. And there I graduated high school, whole different atmosphere, whole different school. Did long distance with Kayla, my wife. We were dating in high school still, made that work for a couple of years doing this and finished school there. Graduated high school, went to a Bible college in Tennessee for a year on campus. It wasn't the greatest fit overall, but took those credits and transferred to a school online where I graduated from back in 2020 or 21. Took an extra semester or so after moving up here to the north side. But in that process, that led us to take an opportunity in Mississippi, the church we were at, to become the youth pastor. I became youth pastor there at 19, which was a pretty cool. I just turned 19 actually to take that position. So I basically got out of youth group for a year and then came back in to lead the thing. And so it was a pretty cool opportunity that got orchestrated. And then that's actually kind of what led us to where we've been for the last 7+ years. Through doing school online, we found opportunities to go serve God full time here in Vermont. So we moved 1,500 miles from Mississippi to Vermont back in 2018, and
Mhm.
this has been our dwelling place since then until God's kind of just stirred our hearts to what's next.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and so do you still have family in Virginia?
Yeah, my wife's whole family is still in the Augusta County, Shenandoah Valley area. They pretty much every single one of her family members live there. And we see them once a year or twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year. We travel down
Mhm.
there. I'll go to 81, down the 64 area and go see them. So
Oh yeah, that's not that far away. That's good.
nope, it's close by.
And so it sounds like you were raised in church. And that being the case, when did you realize that you were a sinner in need of salvation and you met the Lord?
Yeah, so there's in pattern with I have a brother that's 17 months older than me. And when he was 6, he came to my parents' bedroom, like telling them, "Hey, I need to be saved," all these things that he had heard from church. My 4-year-old self just kind of, I was 4 or 5. I just kind of followed him in there and said, "Yeah, I want to do this too." And, which is very common. It's a common story people will tell. And I didn't really know what I was doing or saying. I just knew my parents were excited for me, and it wasn't, and I wasn't in trouble. They were excited for me, so it seemed like a good thing to do. I realized many years later that I didn't know it. I need to have memory of that. It wasn't something I even knew or considered. I was told I did this thing. Never once was it on my conscience or heart that I had actually done this thing, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And so it was pretty unique. Grew up in church, like I said, like we used to do the three to thrive, four to flourish, whatever words you want to use. Very traditional
Hmm.
upbringing in a Baptist church where we were at everything all the time, the potlucks, the night Sunday night Bible studies, Awana groups, youth group, all the thing. But at 8 years old, um, it was a unique Saturday. I can remember it very vividly. We were just doing our normal Saturday morning routine, doing chores around the house, probably about 11 a.m. We got this knocking on the door, and there was some Jehovah's Witnesses out witnessing and trying to talk to people. And my dad always found a great opportunity to be home when they were there. And so he went and grabbed this huge study Bible. It's probably 4 or 5 pounds and grabbed that thing and met them at the door. Like he had it, I think, before they got to the door. He saw them coming. They had their name tags on so to kind of distinguish who it was and what they were doing. And they brought the book out. And I think my dad, he's a pretty blunt man. He goes, now can I tell you what I believe? And he kind of interjected. And so
Right.
the way we grew up, the way our house was set up was right behind the front door was a set of stairs that went straight up, right up to the upstairs. And me and my older brother sat on the step at the bottom and just listened to what was happening. And
Hmm.
those people left. My dad, I mean, I could have been 10 minutes, it could have been 45 minutes. I can't remember how long it was, but after
Hmm.
the interaction, the guy left, and my dad went upstairs to finish ironing, and I went in and talked to him and was like, "Hey, I aren't we all doing the same thing? All churches trying to accomplish the same mission?" He was like, "Actually, they're not. We're not all doing the same thing." And it dawned on me at that point. He explained the gospel and the difference in what other people are believing. That's not just believing in God, but it's believing what Christ has done that brings us to relationship with the God in heaven. So that was a pretty obviously huge moment of the light bulb clicking, if you will, the spirit kind of illuminating himself to, hey, this is what you need. And I grew up as that I was I'm the middle child. I was the one that was always in trouble. And so I knew I sinned. I had no problem admitting that. That was something very obvious that I had done.
Hmm.
And it made much sense that God had revealed that, hey, this is for you and you need this now. I remember being
Hmm.
very repentant. I remember a lot of tears involved. I remember being excited to tell people. And then shortly after was baptized in our church um, there in Augusta County, down in Stewart Strafford, Fishersville, Virginia, where it's at. And so that's kind
Hmm.
of the moment coming to faith there.
Okay. And how about your call to the ministry? When did you realize that you were being called?
Yeah, I think I've answered this three different ways in my lifetime just because I feel like I thought maybe it was one way or the other. And I kind of sat back and thought through this question over the last couple of weeks. And honestly, growing up in a my parents were faithful church members and they just did whatever they could and they served. And we took notice of that and began doing a lot as we grew up in the church. Whatever we could do at whatever age we were, we would do. Whether it was stacking chairs after a fellowship meal or if it was beginning to help with the bus route, which we did in high school at our church there.
Hmm.
Whatever it was, we took our hands and just went at it. And at about 13 years old, I went to a Christian camp called the Wilds Christian Camp. It's in North Carolina, is one in North Carolina,
Hmm.
Hampshire up near us here. And I went to that camp, and the pastor every Friday night every year was all about service to God and how you were going to do about knowing that we're a part of this mission to reach people for Christ. And I remember just sitting there and listening and being like, I feel like this is something God wants me to do, and not just like, I mean, He wants me to do it weekly whenever I'm at church, but I felt like there was something more to that than just simply just being a church member, if that made sense. But
Hmm.
as I brought that back home, I felt that calling, shared it with a youth pastor at the time, and he kind of shrugged it off, which really discouraged me actually. Because he's like, yeah, sure, buddy, whatever. You're 13, that might change, and he's probably heard that before. And I don't. dislike him for it, but it was kind of a
Mhm.
made me feel like, oh, this is not a big deal. I probably maybe this is just maybe I'm making this up. Anyway, I shared that with our new youth pastor a few years later, when I was about 15 or 16, and he just took hold of that and said, let's do the things that would make sense. Let's take each step that would get you to that point and see if this is what God wants you to do.
Mhm.
And every step of the way, opportunity after opportunity, God just made that so obvious. And I've had people say, like, what would you do if you weren't a pastor? And I have no idea because I knew this is what he wants. And
Right.
so that's just kind of what we've done or what I've done
Mhm.
since, and just following each step to see where God would have us to go next. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Pastor K, is there anything you'd like to either add to what you've heard so far, or is there a question that you would like to ask Matt?
No, I think that the idea, Matt, that you can't imagine doing anything else. Alistair Begg says you become a pastor when there's absolutely nothing else you can do. And I think those people that are called to the ministry know the strength of that calling, and don't always know what path we're going to walk. Don't always know what's lying around the corner, but we take faith and confidence in the fact that we're called. So that that confidence is what gets you through the long dark nights where things have not gone the way you expect they would go. And so I've learned to rely on that. That's a good way to express yourself. Thank you.
And um, Matt, I'm going to now turn it to you and ask you if there's anything else you'd like to add, or is there anything that you think the congregation would want to know about you? And then, Pastor, if you have any closing remarks, I'll turn it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, what else is there to know? Let me think. There's a lot there. I think, one of the things my wife and I have both discovered over, I mean, the past 7.5 years that we've been married and in ministry together is just simply wherever we're going to be, we're going to be very present in that place. And I told somebody else this before too, that, we've had opportunity to go back to Augusta County and serve in churches as assistant roles and youth pastor roles that would be seem very intriguing because of the nature of family and whatnot. And those things we never had peace because we knew we were called to where we were here in Vermont, and this is that same calling we're feeling again to go. And so that's one of the things that we've tried to be careful on is as God's called us to places, we don't ever want to peel back and do something that we feel like we'd rather do over God's calling itself, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
um, that's something that we've both really just been in tune with each other, my wife and I, just in prayer, in conversation. We both kind of always have landed. Maybe we've talked or thought or prayed separately and come back together and have had same answers and same thoughts. And so that's something I think God's just made abundantly clear in our hearts as we serve Him. So.
Sure. I did have one other question I'd like to ask you, and I know people are curious. What style of preaching would you say that you use most often?
Ooh, style of preaching. Give me.
So, Pastor K is an expositional pastor, and we just love digging into the scriptures like that. What would you say is your style?
I would definitely say expositional. Um, I've I'm not a loud guy, but I use my hands a lot. And so there's maybe some volume change and some emphasis there, but it definitely expositional preaching. I like to explain and give good application into how this applies, what took place, how it applies now to you. And
Mm,
preaching is, I think it was Tozer, it said it's logic on fire. And so
mm,
there's passion behind it, but it's not just words, right? It's trying to
mm,
instruct the heart um, to get in sync with the spirit and to live in consistency with what God's word says. And so yeah, definitely expositional in preaching. I don't think there's a better way to do it, and I get frustrated when if I'm not able to be in a series that's expositional because it's hard to just run to you have one place to where are you going to go on one random week in 66 books? Like, where are you going to run to? So it's nice to have that consistency, and you're
Sure.
getting through it. You're getting through a series of events, a series of narrative, a series of doctrine,
Mhm.
where you cover a lot of things. You can cover those topics that many people like doing topical conversations or topical preaching through even doing expositional preaching because whatever's in the text is in the text, and
Right.
you don't skip it. So.
Mhm. Right. Matt, those were the questions that I had for you. Pastor K, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, a couple of things. For one thing, Matt, but Kelly and I had a great time talking to you and Kayla a couple of weeks ago. Um, Knowing that Kayla is an integral part of your decision-making process, that's near and dear to my heart. Kelly and I don't do any major changes, make don't any major decisions unless we're in unity on it.
Sure.
And so that's a blessing to me to know that the whole family's involved. There are a couple things that Matt and I have talked a little bit about what my role will be if he comes.
Mhm.
And I've had several people ask me, "Well, are you leaving?" And I don't plan on leaving, but I also don't want to be that guy that's in the back where
Sure.
everybody's looking to see if I agree with what you say. So, that's why we have a 12-month transition process that we will initiate for whoever comes. If that's Matt, that will start on day one. And Matt has seen that. And we've talked about, giving him time to settle, and then working our way into the pulpit to where, hopefully at the end of that period, he would be the primary preacher. But we want everybody to be as comfortable as possible. We want everybody to get to know Matt and his family. But at the same time, I also want to let the congregation know that Kelly and I aren't going anywhere. We'll still play a part. But I've been talking for several years. Went on sabbatical in 2010. We came back and said, "Hey, I'm not going to be here forever. What are we going to do?" And we didn't get a lot of action on that. But it was a good time to just say,
Sure.
someday there'll be a change, and so we went back again on the sabbatical 2017. And that time we came back and said, "Yeah, we really need to be thinking about this, guys. We know who we are. We know what our theological identity is. We know how we fit in the body of Christ in Warrenton, Virginia. And if anything should happen to me or if I should age out,
Sure.
we want to maintain that identity.
Mhm.
We don't want to, I'm the fourth senior pastor. We're about to meet the fifth. But with each senior pastor, each transition in the past, WBF has radically changed its identity.
Mhm.
But now we've been who we are for over 20 years. And so we don't want to change your identity, but there are going to be some differences between the new guy and the old guy. And
Sure.
and so we want to ease people into that, but we also want to make sure that the teaching that has been so prevalent at Warrenton Bible Fellowship for so long continues on to the next generation. And that's my heart, is
Mhm.
that this legacy of a high view of the word, legacy of equipping the body to do the work of the ministry, that continues on. I think we've got something valuable to add to the Warrenton community, and I'd be happy to do that alongside of Matt. So,
Very good. Thank you, Pastor. Anything else from either one of you?
Matt, do you have any questions?
I was trying to think if I had any more. I know we've kind of rehearsed many things, whether it's been email or over Zoom or whatnot. No, I think we're excited and eager to see what God does on the 11th, and excited to spend the weekend with you guys. I think it's awesome that the ladies have an event that night too, that Kayla gets to be a part of and see that aspect of women's ministry and things like that too for her. It'll be great. So,
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on our episode of Cleric and the Counselor. And for all of you listening and watching today, thank you for joining us. And we'll see Matt behind the pulpit on the 11th of January. So look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you.